Time Venus competed in the U.S. Open in 2 years. She was also the oldest competitor in the U.S. Open women's bracket since 1981. After the match, the sellout crowd gave Venus a standing ovation. Just in case you're wondering, the seven-time Grand Slam champion gave no indication that she's ready to retire. Alabama A&M is the HBCU team that played in front of the largest crowd Saturday during the first full weekend of college football. Alabama A&M played at Arkansas, a game that drew 70,827 fans. The turnout ensures at least a six-figure payout for Alabama A&M from the gate receipts. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Wealthy Wednesdays, where we are regularly hosted by Dr. S. Todd Yeary, who will be joining us in our second hour. And in this hour, Dr. Ted Williams will be our special guest, and I will introduce him just after the break. This morning, I got a text message from the mayor of the city of Chicago, who sent me the crime statistics in the Chicago Sun-Times article of just how much crime has been reduced under his leadership. And he's to be applauded for that. Last night, I received a call from Van Jones, and he said that he was searching for a response to the idea that the federal takeovers are working. Jesse, what should I say? That they are stopping the killings and they are reducing crime. How do we respond to that? The simple answer is this president is operating under questionable legal authority that was simply unavailable to other so-called Democratic presidents and Republican presidents that respected the Constitution. The other answer is a little more complicated. The same people who are making the case that the federal takeover is working are also arguing against democracy. They are also arguing against democratic processes. They are also making the case for authoritarianism. Is it possible, or better yet, it is impossible to be wed to one argument without acknowledging the other? Either the nation believes in dual federalism, that is, the federalism articulated by the 10th Amendment. As a reminder, the amendment that was used to justify a state's right to leave the Union to protect the peculiar institution of slavery, that there are certain federal responsibilities and there are certain local responsibilities, or we do not. What is clear is that the history of states' rights has been used by forces of opposition to social and racial progress since the 10th Amendment was added to the Constitution in 1791. The legal arguments associated with the 10th Amendment have created the most separate and unequal system devised by man in human history. We are either going to build a more perfect union, the constitutional mandate, together with equality, or we are not. It is also clear that those who are wedded to the idea of dual federalism will use either side of the argument to accomplish their aims and goals at any given moment in American history. Historically, the federal government has been on the side of the least of these: the black, the brown, the disabled, the gay, the lesbian, the straight, and it is the states that required federal intervention to protect our nation's most vulnerable from the separate and unequal and uncoordinated discriminatory histories within the states. It is now clear that the least of these have no protection from the federal government or state governments that they can count on. I now know why Abraham Lincoln chose the Declaration of Independence as the principle that outlined the rededication of the nation at Gettysburg. He could not rededicate the nation on the basis of the Constitution's values, for both sides had argued that the Constitution was on their side. Neither side was right. Lincoln leaped over the Constitution to the spirit of the Declaration of Independence for agreement and rededication. The Constitution was deficient and insufficient and needed a 13th, 14th, 15th, 19th, and 26th Amendment. We should give consideration to these deficiencies as a people and move quickly in the direction of affirmative rights and values that matter to us all. It is a modern tragedy that the Constitution of the United States is silent on questions of equal high quality education, equal high quality health care, the right to decent, safe, and affordable housing, a clean, safe, and sustainable environment, the fundamental right to vote, and the right to organize to protect one's economic interests into a trade union. These rights should be elevated to human rights in an amended Constitution. Thomas Jefferson was right. Laws and institutions must go hand in hand with the progress of the human mind. We might as well require a man to wear the coat which fitted him when a boy as civilized society to remain forever under the regimen of their barbarous ancestors. We need as a nation to appeal again to the Declaration of Independence, recognize the constitutional deficiencies, offer these amendments, and build a more perfect union. Lastly, the ends of a federal occupation do not justify the means. Martin Luther King Jr. was right. The ends for which we live are pre-existent in the means. That means, as Americans and as human beings, the outcome that we desire must be contemplated. We must give it serious thought before we take action. If I want to reprimand my child, I have to think about the tone of my voice and whether or not corporal punishment will achieve the ends that I seek with my own child. I have to give some thought to my behavior in the present if I want a relationship with my child in the future. Having received corporal punishment myself in an era where it was acceptable and tolerated, I've concluded differently. I want a relationship with my children in the latter years of my life that is not complicated by how I would have treated them in their youth. Hence, the end with which I seek with my own children is pre-existent in the means. The corporal takeover of our communities undermine our faith in the Constitution. It will have the effect of expanding lifelong felonization for tens of thousands, if not millions of people. To date, there have been 1,669 total arrests since the Trump administration intervened in the District of Columbia, a district of roughly 700,000 people. When one considers the size of the city of Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, or Atlanta, Georgia, and one takes into account that these are African-American majority cities that have elected African-American mayors that have been targeted because they are blue-black, the overwhelming population of those who will be arrested and felonized will be black. No future president will pardon them for their arrests that occurred during this period when their rights were suspended. They will lose faith in the Constitution as their rights are usurped, and I'm not convinced that's good for the nation. I'm thinking I should call my friend back this afternoon and share with him that he should call the mayor of the city of Chicago, the mayor of Los Angeles, the mayor of Atlanta, Georgia, and the mayor of Baltimore, Maryland, who are teaching the nation at this hour exactly how to reduce crime, and those who were asking for a response should listen to them. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, more on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte. Let's preserve Black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from Black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, Black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of Black land lost before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling Black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic Black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandlost.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
Yep, I'm looking at the pages right now.
Thomas's translation company just lost its only two Spanish speakers. Without the right replacements, he'll be in problemas.
Yeah, we'll have those ready. Tonight's gonna be a late one.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. With Indeed Instant Match, we immediately show you quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed meet your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Oh, could this vintage store be any cuter?
Right? And the best part? They accept Discover.
Accept Discover? In a little place like this? I don't think so, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, huh? Discover's accepted where I like to shop. Come on, baby, get with the times.
Right, so we shouldn't get the parachute pants?
These are making a comeback. I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2025 Nielsen report.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Dr. Ted Williams is an educator, actor, author who teaches political science at the City Colleges of Chicago. He's a graduate of the University of Chicago, Rutgers University, and Northern Seminary. His acting credits include NBC's Chicago PD, Showtime's The Chi, various films, plays, and commercials for companies including Empire Carpet, Cheerios, and Subway. Williams is the former host of WYCC PBS Television's The Professors, author of the book The Way Out, Christianity, Politics, and the Future of the African American Community, and creator of the musical theater production 1619, The Journey of a People. He was previous candidate for the city council and currently serves on the Illinois Reparations Commission. He and his wife, Rosalind, have 3 children, and I certainly hope Dr. Ted Williams gives some consideration to running for public office again, because we need great voices in extremely high places. Dr. Williams, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much for having me. It is always good to be here.
Dr. Williams, there is panic in the air here in the city of Chicago. Not only the calls that I've received and the text messages that I've received, but a number of people not knowing quite how to respond, what this federal intervention truly means in our city, in our space. We've seen it in Washington, D.C. We've seen it in Los Angeles, California. But now I'm detecting something I'm going to call mission creep. Under the guise of enforcing immigration codes, the nation's immigration laws, the president is now making the case that crime needs to be reduced in the city of Chicago. And that sounds, and I really don't want to say it on the radio, so I won't say it on the radio. It just sounds like this mission creep is going to kick some black people in the behind in the city of Chicago while they are arresting illegal immigrants.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we know that this president has in his crosshairs black and brown folks. 71% of the people that they are detaining through ICE have no criminal backgrounds whatsoever. 71%. This is
Wow.
Unbelievable. You think about how, as you mentioned, the city of Chicago has seen its lowest homicide rate in decades. And 13 out of the top 20 most violent cities in the country are in Republican led states.
Mm-hmm.
So, if he's serious about moving on these issues, you would see an equal effort to deal with cities that are led by Republicans, areas that are led by Republicans, as you would with Democrats. He's not interested in that. We know this very well. What he is doing is political grandstanding for people who believe that the key to making a peaceful society and making America great, I don't say again, I say great once and for all, is
for the first time, right?
For the very first time. That's a longer hat. You got to fit a lot of words in there, but I think we should start doing that, make it finally great, for once and for all. But what we see in this, my brother, is really an effort to really play to his base. People who are afraid of diversity, people who are afraid of cities, people who have not even thought through. And I hate to say it, but many times you're dealing with people who have not really spent a lot of time educationally thinking about these issues. And they go, oh, well, if you put some troops on the street, we're going to be okay. But at what cost? And my brother, you mentioned something about our rights as a state. And I want to, if you don't mind, if I may read something myself.
Take your time, sir.
What you were saying, I think it is so relevant. You asked a question in your opening around what happens with the 10th Amendment. How can we secure these federal rights? And what happens when states have the right to discriminate as they have under the 10th Amendment historically? I want to flip that around and say maybe, just maybe, states' rights, if done correctly, which they have never been done in this country, but maybe there are some places in the states that actually can benefit us. I'm going to read to you the preamble to the Constitution for the state of Illinois. And as you mentioned, the holes in our Constitution may just be filled if you read some of these state constitutions. We, the people of the state of Illinois, grateful to Almighty God for the civil, political, and religious liberty which he has permitted us to enjoy, and seeking his blessings upon our endeavors in order to provide, listen to this, my brother, provide for the health, safety, and welfare of the people, maintain a representative and orderly government, eliminate poverty and inequality. I got to say that one again.
That's in the Constitution? That's in the state constitution?
That is in the state constitution, my brother. Eliminate poverty and inequality, assure legal, social, and economic justice, provide opportunity for the fullest development of the individual, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, secure the blessings of freedom and liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the state of Illinois. Unbelievable, right? If we think it, unbelievable. The rights that are guaranteed, everything that you're talking about, everything you've been talking about, it already exists at the state level. If we take the good parts of the state, of this idea of federalism, and we build on those, I think we can move towards that more perfect union.
I find, first of all, thank you very much for bringing that to my attention about the state constitution. I did some research on all 50 state constitutions. I guess I didn't focus necessarily on the question of the preamble. I've always seen the federal constitution, which it is, as the floor beneath which no state constitution can fall. In other words, state constitutions that are written beneath the floor of the federal constitution, your state constitution can be declared unconstitutional. You can improve upon the federal constitution, and based upon what you've just read, Dr. Williams, that is an improvement on the federal constitution. In other words, a state can grant more rights than the federal Constitution can grant, but it cannot grant fewer rights than the federal Constitution grants. And so I find it somewhat fascinating that in the Illinois Constitution, while we have not eliminated poverty, while there are some red counties in our state that are now petitioning to join Indiana, that there are millions of people within our own state who, even in light of the preamble to our state constitution that you've read, still find dissatisfaction, are unsatisfied, are unhappy with the quality of their lives in a state that has such illustrious language written in its preamble.
Absolutely. And I do love the fact that it's a North Star. I do love the fact that we have something to hold ourselves accountable to. I do love the fact that it is articulated as our goal to, I love this line here. It says to provide opportunity for the fullest development of the individual. What great language and what a great purpose for government. The most dangerous time or part or aspect, if you will, of this particular administration is them really telling us that government does not have a higher purpose. There's no altruistic motive in government. What they have shown us is that they will use the tools of government to benefit those that are wealthiest. They will use the tools of government to make sure that certain people have power and others don't. And really, what it has done, my friend, is really made people, as we've had for many, many years, lose faith in the concept of government. And I would make the argument that when government is done right, when government has the right goals and right priorities, it can be a divine tool to move forward the idea of human development and to move forward the idea of equality for all people.
You know, I find that you're really forcing me to really think this afternoon, Dr. Williams. It seems to me then, just based upon the preamble alone, and I guess we could look at the preamble in every single state and look at the language of those constitutions that could grant more rights than the federal Constitution does. The state of Illinois has a constitutional right under the state constitution to welcome the least of these, to welcome poor people who've made it into the nation, into their state, and provide them sanctuary.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I love that. And if you think it's right there, and the federal government's getting in the way. The federal government is getting in the way of us taking care of the people that we pledged to take care of 150 years ago, brother. 150 years ago. And so when you look at this long history of federalism, we've consistently seen, at least hopefully, the federal government try to come alongside the states and try to support local efforts, local initiatives, when those initiatives and efforts have been on the right side of history, if you will. We know that the federal government has stood against states' rights when they have denied folks like us the right. But if the federal government, in its best role, its best self, can do that, come alongside communities, help with crime, come alongside communities, help with housing because they have the resources to do so, what a beautiful relationship we can have. This president is working in the opposite direction. And at the end of the day, what happens, my brother, as you said, the least of these, they will suffer the most. And what a horrific idea that the government would put the power, all the power that it has, on as a foot on the neck of those who have the least. We ought to be doing the exact opposite.
Dr. Williams, can you comment on the mission creep? Again, in Los Angeles, under the guise of immigration enforcement. In DC, not under the guise of immigration enforcement, but crime control. Coming to Chicago because our state welcomes, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses who yearn to breathe free. Comes to our state under that guise, but then the mission creeps to the idea that Trump and the Texas boys, Governor Abbott has now called President Trump and said he wants to send the Texas National Guard to Chicago, people who do not know Chicago, who do not know the state of Illinois, to, with all of their biases and preconceived notions about what they're coming up north since the Civil War, for the first time to do that they weren't able to do in 1865, Now they're coming here, and a group of young black men are on a corner, not fighting, not shooting, not selling drugs. And here come the Texas boys.
Yeah. With all that symbolizes and it means as well, right? To your point, they have no contextual understanding of where they're going and what they're supposed to be doing. And what we're doing is we're demonizing people that we ought to be helping. Even if this were successful, there are people who are talking and saying, hey, well, crime is down in DC as a result. Even if this were successful, sir, do you possibly think for a moment that this is a long-term, holistic, nationwide strategy to deal with crime? Do you think that we are going to now have troops occupy every city in America forever so that there will not be crime? It is lunacy. It is a waste of taxpayers' money. It is insulting to our military forces and the National Guard. It's insulting to people who risk their lives to protect us. And ultimately, the ones who are doing the local work every day are not getting the resources they need while we're putting on a show. If he's serious about this, interrupter programs that are working all across the country, he ought to be funding those. He ought to be making sure that police departments have what they need. He ought to make sure that communities have opportunity and resources. We understand very clearly he's not, and we must make sure that we do not fall for the okie doke, brother, and make sure that we continue to preach the good gospel of community development, of love, support. Aristotle said poverty is the parent of crime. We can never forget that.
Ted, we have about 45 seconds before we come forward after this break, but I do want to ask you very quickly. There are some parents who are going to drop their children off at school under this enforcement regime from the President of the United States. And when those children come home, a parent or maybe even both of them may not be present. It's just that outrageous. Am I correct?
Absolutely. It is absolutely that outrageous. And we've seen the videos not only of what the National Guard is doing, but what ICE agents have done when parents are not around as well. It is unconscionable, and we have to, as good people of good conscience, stand against it.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, more with Dr. Ted Williams.
The biggest names, the best conversations. You're riding with Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump says a U.S. strike on a drug boat in the Caribbean killed 11 people. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth called them narco-terrorists.
We knew exactly who was in that boat, we knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented. And that was Tren de Aragua, a narco-terrorist organization designated by the United States trying to poison our country with illicit drugs.
Venezuela's president condemned the move as a criminal and bloody threat. Black Mayor Patrick Braxton has been reelected in New Bern, Alabama, ending years of leadership disputes in the majority black town. His win restores fair representation and marks the first true election since the 1960s. And September is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. Black men are nearly twice as likely to die from the disease. Experts now recommend PSA blood tests starting at age 40 to catch it early and save lives. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
Is this the takeover? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The impressive run for Venus Williams at the U.S. Open tennis tournament came to an end. The 45-year-old Compton native lost in the quarterfinals of the doubles competition. Venus and Leylah Fernandez lost to Taylor Townsend and Katerina Siniakova 6-1 and 6-2. This was the first time Venus competed in the U.S. Open in 2 years. She was also the oldest competitor in the U.S. Open women's bracket since 1981. After the match, the sellout crowd gave Venus a standing ovation. Just in case you're wondering, the 7-time Grand Slam champion gave no indication that she's ready to retire. Alabama A&M is the HBCU team that played in front of the largest crowd Saturday during the first full weekend of college football. Alabama A&M played at Arkansas, a game that drew 70,827 fans. The turnout ensures at least a six-figure payout for Alabama A&M from the gate receipts. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, two major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least like to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. In this hour, our special guest is none other than Dr. Ted Williams III, an educator, actor, author who teaches political sciences at City Colleges of Chicago, Graduate of Chicago, University of Chicago, Rutgers University, and Northern Seminary. Dr. Williams, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good to be here.
There's going to come a time when Donald Trump is no more. And by that, I mean no longer president of the United States. There's going to be a time when the nation's troops are withdrawn from American cities. But what will not change are the number of people who will be going in and out of federal courts because of these roundups. People who were not properly Mirandized. People who might very well pick up a federal charge for shouting at a National Guardsman, and of course, some mist from that shout may end up on the National Guardsman. And Pam Bondi says, along with Donald Trump, if you spit on our officers, we are going to charge you with a felony. No intentional spitting going on here, by the way. We're just talking about you're up in my face and I'm up in your face, and I'm saying, why are you here? Why are you here? I'm a homeowner. I'm a property owner. I'm a taxpayer. I have no criminal record, and you find yourself in a federal court now potentially felonized under federal law because of your interaction with the federal law enforcement personnel. Now, long are gone the days of Officer Friendly. When I was in the 5th grade, when Officer Friendly would come to John J. Pershing Elementary School and bring some magic tricks, and we feel good about community and police relations. We're talking about the Alabama boys, the Tennessee boys, the Mississippi boys who are coming up here to Chicago to police our streets like we don't know how to police our streets, picking up a charge. Please, Dr. Williams, share with us your thoughts on what's left when they leave. Tens of thousands of potentially felonized people.
Yes,
will not be pardoned by a future president.
Absolutely. They will not be pardoned, unlike the 1,500 that were pardoned on January 6th, just by the snap of a finger, right? So let's just remember that one again, which they could be. But what will exist is still the challenges that create conditions of crime anyway. And if we're serious about dealing with this, we've got to move into this. But I also want to say that maybe, just maybe, for the Democratic Party, this is a wake-up call, right? Because for whatever reason, which I think is an incorrect perception, but as you know, in politics, perception is reality. For whatever reason, there is this perception that Democrats are not tough on crime, that Democrats have not done what it is that needs to be done, even in a city like Chicago, where we have record low numbers of crimes, homicides in particular. We still have not won this perception issue of round crime. I will tell you, brother, I feel much safer in an environment where there is economic development, where there are some level of gun laws, where there are people who are moving forward in life, than I would feel in an area where all those things do not exist. And if you think about the difference between a blue area and a red area, that's exactly what the difference is. So I will say that when they leave, as you said, we have people who are further criminalized. We have the same issues that exist. What on earth do you think is going to happen if we do not deal with the conditions that leave us in the place where you have criminality occurring? And so I will tell you this, that even for those who might give in, there are some of us, even on this side of the aisle, who might go, yeah, but maybe, just maybe he's right. Maybe, just maybe, I'm a little worried about crime in my community. So maybe, just maybe, what he's doing might help us. I beg you, I plead with you, you must understand the whole picture. What you might gain temporarily will destroy us long term.
I've just been informed that we have a special guest who will be joining us now. Tacoma Roback was the former chief editor of the Chicago Defender magazine, newspaper.
Yes,
and
sir.
now he has moved on to bigger and to, I believe, better things.
Yes.
Tacoma, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. You're no stranger to this conversation. Okay, Brother Roback. No problem. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. You know Dr. Ted Williams.
Yes,
I do. Hello, Ted. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Tacoma. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you.
Likewise.
Tacoma,
Yeah.
you're a man who has your ears to the ground, your eyes to the ground. You've been on the beat for a very, very long time, and you probably are sensing the same panic that I am receiving in these calls from elected officials as well as ordinary citizens. In fact, I'm thinking about changing some aspects of this show so that we can take calls from average, ordinary people who are following our podcast and this show, because we need to hear in real time what's going on, what people are experiencing, and what they're feeling. Brother Roback, what are you hearing about the federal takeover of the city of Chicago?
Wow. Well, Well, first of all, what I'm sensing and what I'm hearing there are people who have been calling for the National Guard to come to Chicago for years.
Yes, sir.
And here's the thing about crime, right? The statistics have borne this out. Shootings are down, murders are down. We're at record low levels, right? But the problem is that when you have these individual reports of mass shootings occurring in Bronzeville, for people that doesn't jibe, what the statistical reality doesn't jibe with these incidences of mass shootings that have occurred, unfortunately. And so there is a call that I've been hearing from our community for better policing. But I think also, and goes to something that Dr. Williams has just mentioned about really for the Democrats debunking this whole notion that they're not tough on crime, debunking the notion that crime prevention is an either or argument, right? And really getting to the heart of why these deployments are taking place. Why is President Trump, targeting Washington, D.C.? Why is he targeting Chicago? What does this have to do with maybe the midterm elections, right? What does it have to do with perhaps, discrediting the Democratic leadership in the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago? That's been an ongoing theme. So with a president who is vested in political theater, I think it's incumbent upon Democrats to be very clear about where they stand and what the real threats really are.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Williams, I have about 2 minutes before the break, but let me ask you a quick question. Let me be devil's advocate. We are tired of the shootings. We are tired of the funerals. We are tired of the chaos.
Yes.
Donald Trump, come in here and fix this problem.
Yeah.
Dr. Williams.
He can't. That's the problem. Not with this.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I feel all of the residents in cities like Chicago and across the country. I mean, there are mass shootings happening all over the place. I have to remind our listeners again, Chicago's not even in the top 20 most violent cities in America per capita when you look at crime rates per capita. So we have to understand that. But I do understand the frustration. What I want people to understand is that this is not a solution. This is not the solution. It might feel good for a moment, but if you want to move us forward, you got to look at what's working. Interrupter programs, taking people who were former gang members and putting them back on the streets. These things are working. We ought to be funding these completely. We ought to be getting guns off the streets. We have to understand that even in a city like Chicago, and we can talk about this, you worked at the national level in Congress, we have the gun show loophole. You could try to regulate guns on the streets of Chicago all day. And if you go to gun shows and people are straw buying and bringing them from states like Indiana into Illinois, you have a plethora of guns on the street. So I would just say, in short, and more we could say about that, but I know we're coming up on a break. I'm with you. I understand you. We understand you. But let's do real solutions. Let's not play political theatrical games.
You're listening to Wealthy Wednesdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest, Dr. Ted Williams and Takuma Roback, will be with us when we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're an African-American mom who is pregnant or have a baby under 6 months old, you deserve care that lifts, listens, and lasts. Black Infant Health is for you. It's a free program with individual support, group sessions, and resources to start your mothering journey. BIH makes space for moms and their families to create community. Learn more about the programs in Los Angeles County. Check us out at blackinfanthealth.org. alzheimerslifenet.org.
September is World Alzheimer's Month, a time to shine a light on a public health crisis that hits Black families hardest. 1 in 5 Black adults ages 70 and older is living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD, and it's not a normal part of aging. Early signs like repeating questions, missed appointments, even trouble handling bills might seem small, but they matter. The good news? There are treatment options available that may slow AD when diagnosed early. Don't wait. Visit treatalzearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com to learn more. This message is brought to you by AZI.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach? Transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal? Prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm LA City Councilmember Curran Price, inviting you to the 30th anniversary of the Central Avenue Jazz Festival, Saturday, September the 20th, from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. We've got 4 pavilions, 3 stages of live music, plus food, fun, and a marketplace all along historic Central Avenue between MLK Boulevard and Vernon Ave. Our featured acts this year are Gregory Porter, Pancho Sanchez, and Jasmine Horn at the 30th anniversary of the Central Avenue Jazz Festival, Saturday, September 20th, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. along Central Avenue between MLK Boulevard and Vernon Avenue. Come out and bring the whole family because this legendary celebration is free. For more information, go to centralavjazzfest.com. I'm LA Councilmember Curran Price, and I absolutely approve this message.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest in this hour is none other than Dr. Ted Williams, actor, teacher, preacher, educator. Dr. Williams, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Hello.
And special guest, Takuma Roback, former editor of the Chicago Defender, is also joining us in this final segment. Mr. Roback, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Ted, let me ask Dr. Roback a question, and I know that you'll be preparing for your word of hope, which I'll save you the last 4 minutes of this segment for. Takuma, families are about to be separated. Children are going to go to school with parents, and then when they come home, their parents will not be there. There is panic in the Hispanic community here in the city of Chicago, in the Puerto Rican community, in communities of brown brothers and sisters who play a significant role in the state of Illinois, both in agricultural communities, but also in our urban environment. What do we, as responsible leaders in our community, share with them as they experience something that many of us are very familiar with, but others of us have never experienced in our lifetimes? An unaccountable federal presence. And I say unaccountable, not that they may not be here doing their jobs, but they're here under questionable legal authority. And when I say questionable legal authority, the idea that posse comitatus is now being discussed as to whether or not the president has the right to have these troops on American streets in this context. What do we tell them? How do we share with them? And how do we keep our historic coalition together in light of the fact that some of us might even find ourselves on the other side of their being here in the first place?
Well, there are anecdotes plenty that state that this coalition has been frayed for some time throughout the country, especially when we looked at the voting patterns from 2024 with regard to people who are brown versus people who are black who voted for Trump or voted for Kamala Harris. What I would say is that this moment politically is a perfect opportunity to rebuild that coalition, because as remote as it is for American-born Blacks to not be deported from here, to not be detained by ICE, we can certainly be sure, and we've seen this over the last 8 to 9 months, that we have an administration that also seems bent on ostracizing and excluding us and wiping away our history. And I would also venture to say that with this federal presence in the city, there could be more disastrous encounters between Black folks in our city and with these guard troops. So that's the opportunity to form a coalition because we are in the same fight. It just looks a little different on the surface.
I'm concerned for the Constitution, Ted.
Yeah.
I'm worried that our faith in the Constitution itself is being shaken. The idea of citizenship rights, the idea of naturalized citizens in the city of Chicago. We're learning lessons from Mayor Karen Bass in Los Angeles. We're learning lessons from Mayor Muriel Bowser in Washington, D.C. We've been listening carefully to how the mayor and even the governor of the state of Maryland are approaching what could potentially be a problem in Baltimore as well. The state of the Constitution, Dr. Williams.
Wow. I think we are being tested in ways that we have not been tested in a long time. And I am going to give you a word of hope here. I'm kind of ready for that, if that is okay.
Yes, sir.
Because, I think that we have to recognize that democracy, it doesn't survive easily. This system of government, this experiment, if you will, this multi-racial, multi-ethnic democracy is truly an experiment that's worth fighting for. And we cannot let one person or one group of people destroy what is, I think, the beauty of this thing we call America. There's a scriptural principle, a scripture in the Bible that says, unless a seed falls to the ground and dies, it remains a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. See, we are at a time right now where some things have to die in our society. If you recall, the Civil War was followed by the Reconstruction era. We went through this horrific time of death and destruction to have a new nation be reborn. This moment that we're in right now is a time of destruction. It is a time to tear down. The scriptures teach about that. There's a time to tear down. There's a time to build up. I believe that we're going through that. And if we can recognize collectively that these rights we've taken for granted will not exist unless we fight for them. If we can recognize collectively that the ideologies of the Civil War, particularly the Confederacy, are so damaging that they will destroy the country, but we can now start again. We can do what Germany did after the Holocaust and really burn down these ideologies. You don't see Nazi flags flying around Germany, but we have allowed these things to grow up. I, love this quote that says that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. This is a time for good men to stand up. This is a time for good women to stand up. This is a time for those of us who care about this time. If you think about in the scriptures, the book of Esther, for such a time as this. I am excited, brother, because I've seen people stand up. I see what's happening in New York City right now, and they might elect the most progressive mayor that we've seen in our lifetime. I see states like Illinois and New York and California pushing forward reparations movements. This is the time for that. And so I will not allow one person or one movement to take away my hope. We are going to go forward. The country may be hurt during this time, and it may get worse. But on the other side, if we fight together and we dream about what's possible, I think we can come out better and stronger than ever.
Well, now, I don't know how to improve upon that word of hope, except for Dr. Ted Williams has left me two more minutes. And
I should have kept going for you. I filibustered a little bit.
And I'm certainly hope that that the word of hope that you offered us today, Dr. Williams, will be received. I can't say enough about Mayor Karen Bass in Los Angeles and all of the mayors that have already confronted this occupation and this federal power.
Yeah.
And I think that we have to look at each of them differently. As the show began, they were saying that now if Eric Adams drops out of the race, this is breaking news, in New York to give Mario Cuomo's son, Andrew Cuomo, a shot. Now saying that the Trump administration will offer him a job. So we see how that is performing under these circumstances.
Wow.
We are now watching Muriel Bowser fighting for what remains of the integrity of the District of Columbia, having to literally welcome, given the dynamics, without having a governor and a state legislature in what should be a state, and how she has to adjust under these circumstances. We are watching Governor Pritzker and the mayor of the city of Chicago stand tall. We're watching Gavin Newsom stand tall.
Yes.
Watching
Yes,
Governor Hochul stand tall.
Yep.
Watching Governor Wes Moore stand tall.
Yes, sir.
And so there is something, Takuma, to be said about hope in these desperate times. Takuma, we have about 30 seconds.
I just wanted to, are you taking you have an offering plate, Dr. Williams? That was moving.
That might very well be it. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Dr. Williams, thank you for being on the show.
Blessings, gentlemen. It's always good
to
to
see you
be
this
with you.
evening. And Takuma, welcome. Thank you for being on the show, sir.
Well, thank you.
When we come forward, it is Wealthy Wednesdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show with Dr. S. Todd Urey. We will continue the conversation.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump says a U.S. strike on a drug boat in the Caribbean killed 11 people. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth called them narco-terrorists.
We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented. And that was Tren de Aragua, a narco-terrorist organization designated by the United States, trying to poison our country with illicit drugs.
Venezuela's president condemned the move as a criminal and bloody threat. Black Mayor Patrick Braxton has been reelected in New Bern, Alabama, ending years of leadership disputes in the majority black town. His win restores fair representation and marks the first true election since the 1960s. And September is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. Black men are nearly twice as likely to die from the disease. Experts now recommend PSA blood tests starting at age 40 to catch it early and save lives. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org. KBLA.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The impressive run for Venus Williams at the U.S. Open tennis tournament came to an end. The 45-year-old Compton native lost in the quarterfinals of the doubles competition. Venus and Leylah Fernandez lost to Taylor Townsend and Katerina Siniakova 6-1 and 6-2. This was the first time Venus competed in the U.S. Open in 2 years. She was also the oldest competitor in the U.S. Open women's bracket since 1981. After the match, the sellout crowd gave Venus a standing ovation. Just in case you're wondering, the 7-time Grand Slam champion gave no indication that she's ready to retire. Alabama A&M is the HBCU team that played in front of the largest crowd Saturday during the first full weekend of college football. Alabama A&M played at Arkansas, a game that drew 70,827 fans. The turnout ensures at least a six-figure payout for Alabama A&M from the gate receipts. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show in this, our second hour of Wealthy Wednesdays, where we discuss the politics of our faith with Reverend Dr. S. Todd Yeary. Dr. Yeary is the principal of the Yeary Firm, a Maryland-based litigation and government relations firm, and also serves as the senior pastor of the Douglas Memorial Community Church of Baltimore and affiliates. Dr. Yeary is also the former chief executive officer of the Rainbow Push Coalition, the international human and civil rights organization founded by my father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Dr. Yeary's social justice work includes having served on the national board of the National Action Network from 2015 to 2021. That is the organization founded by the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton, past political action chair for the Maryland State Conference of the NAACP, and as co-founding principal of Community Churches for Community Development, Inc., and as founding principal of strategic advocacy and legislative think tank, SALT, a faith-based policy collaborative that works on regional and national empowerment strategies impacting disaffected communities. Dr. Yeary, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Always good to be with you on a Wednesday. I'm kind of working on the run because we've got a short week, so I'm glad to be with you. It kind of calms down my day.
He's a lawyer and he's a minister, 1 foot in the pulpit and 1 foot in the courtroom, both feet in reality. And I see that our producer has put up here, she called you today Reverend Deacon Dr. Esquire.
It's the deacon part that gets me every time. So,
Dr. Yeary, I've asked our 2 previous guests to hang around with us for this segment, and then we'll have a more in-depth conversation just between us. I want to welcome Dr. Ted Williams back to the program and Takuma Roback, the former editor of the Chicago Defender. Dr. Williams, Dr. Roback, thank you very much for being with us. Takuma, just before we went to the break, you were passing the plate on the question of the hope offered by Ted Williams in the last segment, because we were talking about rebuilding the coalition that has been strained based on the evidence of several elections now. I remember in a forceful way, my father talked about this Rainbow Coalition. I believe in the Trump era, the Rainbow Coalition, which was an organization built upon a recognition of colors and cultures and people who are different than we are, that we are now pretty much, Dr. Yuri, building a painbow coalition because all of us are going to feel the pain, whether it's cuts in Medicare, Medicaid, the social safety net, locking up our brown brothers and sisters, building new prisons to house our brothers. I mean, we're about to experience some real pain. The state of Florida today is now outlawing the idea of required vaccines. It's almost like they don't have a problem welcoming measles back into our population or welcoming typhoid or any other diseases, including spreading the flu, by the way, which is one of the most deadly viruses, if in fact, and as we head into flu season, every year you need a flu shot because the strain of the flu changes. And the flu itself can wipe out large numbers of people. It just seems to me that when we organize this coalition around our mutual experiences in what Ted Williams called the democratic experiment, new coalitions, Takuma, are actually formed in that context.
Absolutely. And with those coalitions, a sense of shared language about what impacts us the most. And right now, obviously in this moment, it's coming from all directions. It's the economic pain that we're experiencing. It's the spiritual eradication, the spiritual and physical eradication of who we are as a people, Black and brown. Um, it is this shared pain, as you said, painbow is apropos in this moment. But I also think it's an opportunity to really talk about what's really at stake here, and that is not only our well-being, but I would speak to people who may support the current president, who may not, who may be, working class. That you're hurting yourself as well, right? That when you cut the social safety net, when those SNAP benefits are getting cut by the big beautiful bill, when Medicaid is being cut, well, that's going to lead to the closures of grocery stores in rural areas, as well as the closures of rural hospitals, which are happening already. So who's really hurting? Who's really being impacted? And so, as I said in the last segment, this is a perfect opportunity to reform this coalition.
Reverend Yuri, we're going to lose Tacoma after at the break, but I wanted you to address this idea of reorganizing people around the idea of the anxiety that we're feeling here in the city of Chicago as Chicago makes ready for a major federal presence, which intends to inflict pain and cruelty, we believe, upon the people.
Well, it's already inflicted pain and cruelty on the people. Just by the very way there's been an outright assault on the infrastructure that supports and sustains the most vulnerable in society. That's the ongoing distinction that we often see in terms of how at least the national government works. It's often argued that the Democratic Party believes that the government is the largest economic entity to be able to address the ills and the shortcomings that affect the day-to-day living of people, while the Republican Party believes that conservatism, that somehow the free market addresses these concerns. And so if you're at the bottom of the totem pole, trickle down takes a little longer for you than it does anybody else. And so when we look at these distinctions, I think what is laid out is that we've got to wrestle with what are the economic realities, because this is really another Bacon's Rebellion moment. We've got to figure out who's going to unite around common economic interests to resist what's happening in America.
Mr. Roback, thank you for being on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, Dr. S. Todd Yuri, 1 foot in the pulpit, 1 foot in the courtroom, both feet in reality. Reverend, Deacon, Doctor, Attorney, Esquire will be our special guest on the politics of our faith on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte. Let's preserve Black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from Black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, Black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of Black land lost before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling Black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic Black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandlost.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
Yep, I'm looking at the pages right now.
Thomas's translation company just lost its only 2 Spanish speakers. Without the right replacements, he'll be in problemas.
Yeah, we'll have those ready. Tonight's gonna be a late one.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. With Indeed Instant Match, we immediately show you quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed meet your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Oh, could this vintage store be any cuter?
Right? And the best part? They accept Discover.
Accept Discover? In a little place like this? I don't think so, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, huh? Discover's accepted where I like to shop. Come on, baby, get with the times.
Right, so we shouldn't get the parachute pants?
These are making a comeback. I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2025 Nielsen report.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Wealthy Wednesdays, the politics of our faith with Reverend Dr. S. Todd Erie, Esquire. He really doesn't need an introduction. He is one of our most exciting contributors weekly on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Dr. Erie, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
That's because I try to go to the deacon board meeting, the preacher meeting, the lawyer meeting. You know, folks know I'm unstable. So
You get any sleep?
Listen. They trying to figure out which personality is going to show up today.
Dr. Erie, we are so grateful for you. Hey, let me ask a question, because I want to first begin with an affirmation of our humanity, even as we conduct the business of social justice in this environment, particularly here in Chicago. I start from the premise that there is no such thing as an illegal human being. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as an illegal human being. Now, you may be an undocumented worker. You may not be legally here based upon your status. But the idea that that we can reduce people in our minds to being illegal, that's deeply troubling for me in my spirit. If I can dismiss you because you're Black, then I don't give your personhood a chance. If I can dismiss you because you're gay or you're lesbian, then I make you the other. I mean, if I make you the other, then I don't see Emmett Till's humanity. If I make you the other, then I We can stand around after church on Sunday morning, go to the town square and lynch a Negro and just stand there and look at him burn if you become the other. Dr. Yeary, help me with this struggle that many of us now have no problem looking at another human being and say, you have no self-worth, you don't belong here, you are illegal. Work with us, Dr. Yeary.
Well, it's actually kind of an updated form that has the same root as another related word from another time that focused on this kind of dysfunction of family because you didn't have a nuclear family present. And so they would talk about illegitimate children. So whether we're talking about illegal people or illegitimate children, they flow from the same kind of narrowness that is really intended to create kind of this catch-all that absolves the ownership of what really is driving this illegal status. If they were to apply it according to the Immigration and Naturalization Act, the actual law, you would actually find that who they are calling illegal aren't really the majority of those who are, quote, illegal. That the process by which you enter the country without kind of approval or permission, if you will, is tied to what are the circumstances you're coming from. The vast majority of those persons who are in the country illegally are actually folks who came over with a visa, stayed past the expiration of the visa, and have remained in the country. Well, that's not the majority of the folks that are coming from the southern border, coming from the Caribbean. These are folks who are coming through gateways and airports from other parts of the country. And so when we look at how this is framed, it is really to find what would on the surface appear to be a less hostile word for what really is a racially motivated policy that's being put in play. And so what they do is they tap into the otherness of the fear of the boogie people, right? Boogie men, boogie women, now boogie children. You're going to put kids on airplanes who are separated from their parents and send them to a country where they have no ties, no family, no cultural relativity, none of that. And that there is no just absolute outrage, not so much from the folks who are accustomed to this kind of scrutiny, this kind of assault, but from those who claim to be the neoliberal allies who actually sit in silence. And what they do is they just tell the story about it, but they're not trying to do anything about the conditions. And so until we wrestle with what is the fabric of the politics that somehow creates this passive indifference from folks who say they are about this inclusive reality where everybody's humanity is affirmed, well, that's good in terms of rhetoric, but we don't need rhetoric now, we need action. And so who's going to push back against this onslaught? Who's going to say it's not really appropriate, it's not really desirable to have the US military walking up and down the streets of cities in the country because you want to give the impression that the military police are going to be the new reality of how we handle Black and brown enclaves. Let's just be real clear. Sending the police to Baltimore, to Chicago, to New York, to LA, to other places that the president seems to want to identify, they have a couple of things in common. First, they all have Black mayors. Second, they have high Black populations. Third, they all have leadership that are from the Democratic Party. I've not heard, other than earlier today, he mentioned possibly going to Louisiana that has a Republican governor, but then going to New Orleans because, quote, New Orleans has a problem. And so we've got to look at the fact that the criminalization of poverty, the criminalization of people who are hurting, the criminalization of a process that constantly fails where people are is something that we've got to wrestle with. And the only way we wrestle with it is we've got to engage in the process that addresses it. That's politics, that's elections, that's going to board meetings and public hearings and town halls to be able to hear what are folks doing with the power that we have entrusted to them to represent our interests. Until we do that, this thing's going to get worse before it gets better, and it's probably going to get a whole lot worse.
I want to share with with our listeners the significance of, again, who you are, because you're in a courtroom every day. And a significant amount of your clients in the courtroom spend your fees and other criminal defense lawyers' fees to overcome and share with a jury of one's peers who the individual is. Because when they stand before the judge accused, when they stand before the jury accused, they are the other, the criminal defendant. And then the prosecution paints a case of the behavior that has brought us to this moment in a courtroom. The criminal defense lawyer has to say, wait a minute, hold it. This is a father. This is a mother. This is someone who goes to church every Sunday. This is someone who is a productive member of society. This is someone who pays their taxes. This may be also someone who has made a mistake. But so much of the process is about reclaiming who the individual, humanizing the individual that has already been charged by the government, and it's already predetermined to some degree through the process that we're even gathering and engaging in jury selection on the basis that someone before has done something wrong, either criminally or civilly, and we don't want to look at the scope of their entire life and who they are. We want to put them in this box for the purposes of determining innocence or guilt, or even seeking a conviction. And therefore, it's nearly impossible to regain your humanity after the process by which your humanity has been stripped from you. Everything that you thought you were in the courtroom, you are not. You are less than the other. And even if you do your time, you're still a felon. You're still the other in the society. And the moment we call someone illegal, I believe, and I certainly believe this was true of Nazi Germany, that as soon as we can call people the other and see ourselves as separate and different than other human beings, Dr. Yuri, we simply justify some of the most heinous acts that have occurred in world history. Dr. Yuri?
There's a lot to unpack there. As you were talking, the first thing that came to mind was, last week marked 20 years since Hurricane Katrina. Devastated the Gulf Coast, wiped out New Orleans, the Ninth Ward, the tragedy there. And if we go back those 20 years, we can remember the images of people who were trying to survive the unthinkable. And many of them would rely upon whatever resource was available. So if it was bottled water from, the corner store that ain't opening for business for a while, we got to get through today, tomorrow, the next day. And so you would have these images in the newspaper of folks that are actually called looters, when what they're trying to do is figure out how they're going to survive. When you don't have anybody coming for you, and folks say, well, you should have gotten out, but you don't really have a way to get out. They shut down public transit. You don't have another way to move. You don't have access to a car. You don't have the economic wherewithal to be able to afford gas that spikes usually when tragedy is coming. And so you've been forced to kind of try to weather a storm that you don't realize how bad it's going to be until it actually gets here. And oh, by the way, around you is the ever expanding stench of death. So when you have that as your reality, and then you've got to frame that against not someone who's trying to figure out how do you develop the courage to survive against those kinds of odds, they say that, oh, here are people who are taking things that they don't need. Now, the essentials, we certainly could probably argue. We could probably have a debate about what other things folks may have been taking that they thought they could sell to find the resources that they would be able to get because they had no way to go to work. We can talk about all of that. It's not to dismiss it, but it's to understand until you have been through human suffering, you're not really in a position to critique what you may or may not do if you were in the same situation. And so when you lay that out, when we don't have this sense of a commitment to redemption, to restoration, to reuniting persons who are taken out of the community. Just take, for instance, in Baltimore, 10 years ago, Freddie Gray died after a Sunday morning encounter with police where he didn't feel like being bothered, so he ran from them because he didn't want to fool with them. After they chased him, threw him in the back of the van, didn't secure him, took him on a rough ride, severed his spine. A few days later, he died. Well, the truth of the matter is the neighborhood where Freddie Gray grew up has the highest percentage of persons who have been taken out of the community and are now in the system amongst Black men in the state of Maryland. So when depopulation is your reality, when devastation is your experience, to have somebody who doesn't know what that looks like, what that feels like, to somehow create or to critique what my sense of survival should be, you know, quite honestly, some of this is more of the hypocrisy that we've got to do our own introspection to be able to figure out how should we respond to overcome this. And oh, by the way, when you mention, you know, carrying the stigma of being a felon, well, that applies to everybody except the president of the United States.
I don't think it can be said better than that. I mean, he's the prime example that the president of the United States has 34 felonies, but we no longer refer to him as a felon. We refer to him as the honorable president of the United States. That somehow the office itself, at least in this moment, has eliminated the fact that we are looking at criminal behavior in very, very high places. All these deals, we already know that he's not concerned about the poor, about feeding hungry people. When he says he's doing a deal for minerals in Ukraine, in Africa, a deal, come on now. This isn't about feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, liberating the captive, fighting for democracy, fighting for human rights, fighting for women's rights in the third world. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a high crime against the Constitution and crimes against the American people that are taking place right before our very eyes. I don't think you could have said it better. But on this question, again, of the otherization of people, what does it require in our final 2 minutes before the break? What does it require to bring forward the human condition under these circumstances of government oppression?
Well, I think it requires that we find the commonality in the uniqueness of our experiences. Too often we want a political agenda that satisfies answer D, all of the above. And so we often look for unanimity as opposed to commonality. And if we were to find those common issues, those things that keep us linked, that are essential, we have the makings of a revolution that allows us to push back on what the other side does. They don't get into all of the distinctions that we often fight about. They have one thing and one thing in mind, and that's turning a profit and making more money. That's why, you know, you can start a techno coin launch and make $5 billion of paper wealth. That's the game. So we got to figure out how to get over those limitations and start fighting about the things we have in common.
You're listening to The Politics of Our Faith on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show with Dr. S. Todd Yeary. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to, I think, some fairly amazing conversation for times such as these. Federal occupation of Chicago will take place in the not-too-distant future, according to the governor of the state of Illinois, the mayor of the city of Chicago, following the leadership of Mayor Karen Bass. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More when we come forward.
Talk. It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is signing an executive order requiring ongoing coordination with federal law enforcement as Trump's federalization of the city's police expires next week.
The mayor's order does not extend the Trump emergency.
Bowser says it creates a path forward beyond the emergency. President Trump praised her on Truth Social while criticizing other Democrats. Black R&B singer Montel Jordan says his prostate cancer has returned nearly a year after surgery. Known for his hit, This Is How We Do It, he remains hopeful, urging early detection and regular screening. He's also partnering with Zero Prostate Cancer and working on a documentary about his journey. Rapper Fat Joe gave away backpacks and school supplies to more than 500 kids at Paint for Peace Children's Village in Harlem, New York. He joins artists like Lil Baby, who also hosted a back-to-school event this summer. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
Is this the tiger? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The impressive run for Venus Williams at the U.S. Open tennis tournament came to an end. The 45-year-old Compton native lost in the quarterfinals of the doubles competition. Venus and Leylah Fernandez lost to Taylor Townsend and Katerina Siniakova 6-1 and 6-2. This was the first time Venus competed in the U.S. Open in 2 years. She was also the oldest competitor in the U.S. Open women's bracket since 1981. After the match, the sellout crowd gave Venus a standing ovation. Just in case you're wondering, the 7-time Grand Slam champion gave no indication that she's ready to retire. Alabama A&M is the HBCU team that played in front of the largest crowd Saturday during the first full weekend of college football. Alabama A&M played at Arkansas, a game that drew 70,827 fans. The turnout ensures at least a six-figure payout for Alabama A&M from the gate receipts. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., inviting you to join me weekdays at 12 noon, right after Tavis Smiley, here on KBLA Talk 1580. As a law school graduate and a theologian with a firm grasp of our body politic given almost 2 decades in Congress, my show is the fresh new home of an authentic, uncompromised quest for transformation and salvation, both personal and collectively, as I vigorously interrogate the theological and symbolic meanings embedded in our society. I promise to leverage my knowledge of history, theology, and both international and domestic issues to imagine an inclusive vision for the future, which I hope will inspire all of us to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as a given, not just an aspiration. So join me weekdays at 12 noon right after Tavis Smiley for 2 hours of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. That does give us certain advantages, for example, in experience and resources. But being big doesn't mean less personal or less local. Our attorneys live and work in your community, and as neighbors, they understand the challenges your families face. If you're a guy facing divorce, remember, Cordell & Cordell, a partner you can count on.
1455 Frazee, San Diego. CordellCordell.com.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431. 800-868 888-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Giveaways, and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Wealthy Wednesdays and the Politics of Our Faith with Reverend Dr. S. Todd Yeary. Dr. Yeary, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
It's a good time on a Wednesday, but we've got serious things to talk about. I'm glad to be able to talk about them with you.
Dr. Yeary, on WBEZ Chicago, they're reporting that Chicago sees its fewest summer murders since 1965. The Chicago Police Department criminal homicide tally for June, July, and August is the lowest in 60 years, and overall violent crime remains near its lowest point in more than 4 decades. As the Trump administration plans to send more federal agents to Chicago and threatens to deploy the National Guard, all in the name of fighting violent crime, a WBEZ analysis has found that 3-month summer span saw the fewest murders in 60 years in Chicago, while overall violent crime remained near its lowest point in at least 4 decades. It seems to me that we should be honoring the mayor of the city of Chicago in this hour for what he has accomplished. It should be part of his own reelection bid that he has done what no mayor has done in 60 years. That would date, by the way, all the way back to Richard J. Daley, that no mayor has enjoyed crime statistics quite like Boss Daley 60 years ago. I'm talking 1965. I was born that year, age 60 years old, so I have a sense, a very brief sense of what the Daley era looked like, because obviously he died in the early 70s. That's an amazing statistic, Dr. Yeary.
It's an important data point in a time when, data and facts seem to have little, if any, value. The other part is that we don't do the comparisons. The comparisons are usually internal. They're not external when we look at what's going on in other parts of the country, because a lot of times they look at raw numbers, not necessarily per capita. Typically, if you have a lot more people in a more compressed space, you're going to have more opportunities and more challenges to have incidents of what we call crime. But then there's also how crime is categorized and how it is claimed. You mentioned in the last segment that I spend quite a bit of time in courtrooms defending those who have been charged with, quote, crimes. And the factual support that is often used to get these charges, to turn these lives upside down, to get some endorsement that these are somehow persons who are an affront to the otherwise well-meaning, well-deserving part of society, is many times based on fiction. And when I say fiction, I mean constructed fiction. Cases right now where the remedy we're now addressing in federal court, where someone walking down the street says the police say they supposedly look like somebody that is missing. And they ask the person, give me your ID and tell me your name. And they say, well, I don't have to tell you anything, which is actually legally correct. And they arrest them. And when they resist this unlawful arrest, they get charged with assault on a police officer. I'm like, how did you end up with this, right? And they actually have the audacity to put it on paper, and it's also on body-worn camera, but now you have to go through the process of, you've got some judicial officer who makes a determination about bail. If you get arrested after court closes at 5 o'clock on Friday, you're not going to see a judge until Monday. You're going to spend the weekend in jail. If you're working, it may cost you your job. If your family relies upon you, they're going to be concerned. And then by the time you finally get out and come to realize and affirm that this is somehow not what the police say it was, now you got to go back and try to put the pieces of your life together. It never even gets close to a jury because it never should have been a charge. By the time we get to a jury trial, it's because the state tries to entice folks to take a plea to say, I sign up for you to besmirch my character because what I'm trying to do is get back to my life and I can't do it because y'all keep messing with me. And in reality, it's never about guilt. It's about what's most expedient because we're trying to survive out in these streets. And so we've got a different kind of challenge in different parts of the country. And what we've seen is the distinction where this president says that he is bringing crime down to zero in DC, and he's coming to Chicago, then he's coming to Baltimore. I kept waiting for him to go to Southeast DC. I ain't see that yet. But I figured if he was really trying to see the city, go see the city. Don't just hang around the mall. Go hang around the hood. Go see what folks are trying to overcome to be able to live
Yeah.
with some sense of dignity
That's
and
right.
opportunity.
That's right. I'm thinking in this moment that that this president is exercising a power that was not available to any other president in modern American history. So it's hard to say that Democratic presidents don't fight crime because they followed the Constitution. They know they could not put the National Guards in these communities. Help me answer the question that Van Jones asked me last night. Jesse, how do I respond to conservatives who say crime is down, murders in the nation's capital have stopped as a result of this federal presence? What's my retort? What's my response to that?
To say that you've broken the law to be able to bring crime down is really kind of an oxymoron, right? This is the first president that really has no rules to abide by. He's been told if it's any sort of official function, he's got immunity. He's testing the notion that the courts, while they might frustrate him, they can't really make him do anything that he doesn't want to do. And he's running these trial balloons all over the country to see when he can arbitrarily use the military to his advantage. And so if the courts, the federal courts, don't have their own enforcement mechanism, and the president is the commander in chief of the military, and now he's reaching down into the state militias, we call them the National Guard, then what you have is, in talking to conservatives, they've got to wrestle with, would they be okay if these were white mayors and these were white cities, and he was unleashing the army to come run and occupy their cities like somehow or other this is some other world country? The truth of the matter is, when you talk about the otherness at the very beginning of this show, because the images are often tied to black and brown bodies, it is easy for white conservatives to detach themselves from any sort of moral accountability for how the government functions and how the military is utilized. And so what I'm looking for is what's going to be our response when he declares some form or version of an equivalent of martial laws in some city somewhere that justifies what he really wants to do, which is to take control of how everything functions all the way down to the elections, because he's not planning to go anywhere.
Let me share this with our listeners, if I might, Dr. Uri. Why should you be concerned about what goes on in Chicago? Chicago is not Los Angeles, and Chicago is not New York. Chicago is unique. If you bring the fight to our streets, we will bring it. That's not something that I'm condoning or even offering. But if Chicago decides to amp this up and Donald Trump invokes the Insurrection Act, he will not just be invoking it for Chicago. When he invokes the Insurrection Act, it allows him to enter into any city in the United States under that act, under the idea that there is an insurrection taking place in this nation. And that's why I have asked over and over again for cooler heads to prevail, that we conduct ourselves with the highest level of our spirits, of our dignity, and respect for the law. Do not give him the authority to invoke the Insurrection Act because of our behavior in our city, reacting to him, that creates a crisis for every city in the United States because it's one president who has that power. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Wealthy Wednesdays, the politics of our faith with Reverend Dr. S. Todd Uri. When we come forward, more with Dr. Uri on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Want to extend that barbershop shave at home? Try Gillette Skin Guard, designed specifically for men who battle shaving irritation. With this irritation defense bar, 2 comfort blades, and a touch of aloe, it helps avoid shaving bumps and irritation, leaving me looking my best. I find it perfect for when I need a clean, fresh look, especially between barber visits. Tailored for black men, it's easy to use and offers the comfort my skin deserves. Stay confident between cuts with Gillette Skin Guard.
You're still grooving, still connecting, still loving, still turning up, still thriving. You still got it, but your immune system, it weakens as you age. That's where vaccines come in. They help train and strengthen your immune response to fight off respiratory illnesses like flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, or COVID-19. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Book in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Los Angeles Regional Food Bank is on a mission to fight hunger and provide nutritious food to those in need across our community. They partner with federal, state, and local programs advocating for better policies and funding for critical hunger relief programs like Cal Fresh, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and the Child and Adult Care Food Program. The food bank works with coalitions and local representatives to make sure hunger is addressed in every district of LA County. They also run nutrition education campaigns, raise hunger awareness, and source nutritious food for distribution, all while supporting regulations that allow food pantries to operate safely. Want to help? Visit lafoodbank.org or call 323-234-3030 to volunteer or find a food bank near you. Together, we can ensure that no one goes hungry in Los Angeles County. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Just yesterday, a federal judge ruled against the National Guard in Los Angeles, and Trump then vowed, almost in the same breath, to send them to Chicago. Hours after a federal court in California ruled against how President Trump used the National Guard in Los Angeles this summer, Trump touted his use of the National Guard in Washington, D.C., and said he would soon send the troops into Chicago, though he did not say when. My understanding is there are less than 500 troops still left in Los Angeles, with an initial deployment of nearly 4,000. But Donald Trump, Governor Abbott, and others have offered to send from their states local National Guard units to the streets of Chicago to react in large measure to what the President of the United States said and does. Again, I'm still at the Insurrection Act. Whatever took place in LA that was handled wonderfully by Congresswoman Carmelaga Doge and Mayor Karen Bass and the city council in the city of Los Angeles. We are looking to try our best to duplicate the quick departure of the National Guard from the city of Chicago. But I brought up in the first hour mission creep, Dr. Yuri. This all started in pursuit of so-called immigrants who are not here legitimately. I'm not going to call them illegal. There's no such thing as an illegal person in my mind. But now the president is coming here not only with ICE to round up immigrants who've not followed the processes, but now he's coming in here to talk about he's going to solve the crime problem, which means he's coming here to put a licking on black people, man. Talk to me about that. I'm worried.
Well, here's the challenge.
What, the challenge is my behind whooping?
Well, yeah,
Don't
yeah.
philosophize past what I said, Doc. I
Well,
want to
well,
hear this
well.
one now.
You know, I've been called deacon and doctor and all the other stuff. But when I was a young adolescent, almost young adult teenager, trying to figure out how I was going to take some pressure off of my mama trying to pay for me to go to school, I enlisted in the Georgia National Guard. I was in a combat engineer unit.
Okay.
And one of the first things I learned is that when you go to basic training, they're not teaching you how to police. They're teaching you how to go to war. When I was at what was then called Fort Jackson, South Carolina, now Fort Liberty, we were still learning hand-to-hand combat. Don't tell nobody how long ago that's been. You know, warfare's changed where it's more like, you know, video games and Star Wars.
Drone to drone contact.
Yeah, listen, you know, look, we didn't even know what a drone was. Drone wasn't even a word. They were like, here's a gun, here's some bullets, here's a knife, and we're gonna teach you how to throw this grenade. That was about as high tech as it got. But when that's the training, when we look at what is in basic training, what's in the training of folks who serve in the military, serving the public safety function is not what they do. And so if you're not going to train them the way that police officers have to be trained on how to enforce the law, the reality is about 97% of all criminal engagements in the legal system are under state law. These folks that are coming from guard units from other states don't know Illinois state law. They can't do enforcement. There are going to be all kinds of lawsuits that flow out of this. The Department of Defense for violating folks' civil rights. It's going to be an issue. And so here's where I think folks have to be clear, where you say, don't give in to the bait. This is where the genius of Dr. King actually comes into play. They're trying to bait you into a response because the response is what triggers their justification to be able to claim that something exists where it doesn't exist. And so rather than giving them what he wants, which is the right to occupy our neighborhoods willy-nilly, this notion that somehow or other you putting soldiers on the street is going to keep crime down. Well, how long are you going to keep them there? Because they are volunteer. The militia, they got jobs, they got lives, they got to go back home. What does this look like? And who's going to pay for it? So the reality is all of this is a trick. And it's a trick to keep up enough chaos where he's within range of the midterm election because he is afraid of losing the ability to control a co-equal branch of government that is overwhelmed by cowardice. And they're trying to keep playing the map out.
Dr. Yuri, let me ask you one last question before your word of hope, and I really do want you to give some thought to this one. If I were the mayor of a major city, one of my primary jobs would be to attract conventions to Los Angeles, attract conventions to the city of Chicago, travel the world and encourage the Olympics to come to my town because of the billions of dollars that the Olympics represent, the housewares show, the auto show, the conventions. Please come, AFL-CIO. Please come, Amazon convention. Please come to the city of Chicago, the city of Los Angeles. These mayors are salespersons, not only domestically, but globally for the revenue associated with these cities. These cities do not survive off of people who just live there. They survive off of people who visit the cities. But when the president of the United States identifies these cities it must play some role in discouraging people who would visit our city, spend their money in our city, cancel their conventions in our city because of a national federal presence in an overblown mission creep to suggest that somehow we are more violent than any other cities in the country. I don't think we are looking at the economic damage that's being done to these cities by the President of the United States.
Well, it's intentional, right? Let me give you the comparison. You're going to move the headquarters of Space Command from Colorado, where you didn't win, to Alabama, to Huntsville, where you did win, right? And so I think all of this is to create a false justification that says to the corporate interests, rather than go to a world-class city like Chicago, diverse in terms of the mix of the cultures, the languages, the nationalities, the ethnicities that make up the fabric of the city, go somewhere else that's really more amenable and more in line with our politics. It is part of the hustle. It's what late Brother Malcolm called this being bamboozled. We're being bamboozled because on one hand, you tell me the city's dangerous. On the other hand, you tell me I can walk through O'Hare Airport and not have to take off my shoes to be able to go get on an airplane. Which one is it? If the city's dangerous and the airports in the city aren't dangerous and the people coming in and out of the city don't present a threat, then at some point we've got to recognize that this dude's going to keep talking in circles because he doesn't have a plan. The plan is to keep up enough chaos, to cause enough concern, to cause folks to push the panic button so he can do whatever the hell he wants to do.
Dr. Uri, a word of hope.
So don't get pimped, don't get punked. I'm going to go back to one I probably told some time ago, but I think it's a good time to tell it again. Stop letting this dude hit you with the back of his hand. Stop letting him smack us in our face like somehow that we too stupid to know what's really going on and we are bound to be his inferior. Because the reality is when Jesus says turn the other cheek, he's not saying surrender to abuse. He's saying remember who you are. Because if somebody's watching the interaction and somebody strikes you with the back of your hand and you do nothing, it says that there's a superior-inferior relationship. But if you turn the other cheek and make them have to deal with your humanity, your dignity, your authority, your autonomy, the agency that you have, now they get to deal with the resistance that's in you to put forward, and you don't need to ask nobody's permission to do what's in your best interest. So turn the other cheek, remember who you are, and recognize that one thing you didn't get up to do this morning is to get punked by somebody who's trying to take advantage.
So this is a moment of character.
It's a moment of character, but it's also a moment of memory. This ain't who we are. Look, my mama didn't raise me to get punked by no foolishness. Big Mama didn't have much education, but she had a whole lot of sense. And that's what we need to use, good sense, and stop letting these people play in your face.
The National Guard, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, God knows what else is coming to the city of Chicago. It has left Los Angeles in some measure. Obviously, they're still present, but we're going to have to learn city to city what's taking place as we try to provide leadership through KBLA on what's next and what's going on here in the city of Chicago. We are organizing at this hour our elected officials to come onto the program to share with you how we are dealing with the crisis when it confronts itself. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Dr. Uri, thank you for being on the program this Wednesday.
We're soldiers in the Army. It's always been good to be with you.
It was truly wealthy with you, Dr. Uri. Looking forward to our time together next week. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. This is KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, it will be tomorrow on Thoughtful Thursdays with Johnny Mack.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is signing an executive order requiring ongoing coordination with federal law enforcement as Trump's federalization of the city's police expires next week.
The mayor's order does not extend the Trump emergency.
Bowser says it creates a path forward beyond the emergency. President Trump praised her on Truth Social while criticizing other Democrats. Black R&B singer Montel Jordan says his prostate cancer has returned nearly a year after surgery. Known for his hit, This Is How We Do It, he remains hopeful, urging early detection and regular screening. He's also partnering with Zero Prostate Cancer and working on a documentary about his journey. Rapper Fat Joe gave away backpacks and school supplies to more than 500 kids at Paint for Peace Children's Village in Harlem, New York. He joins artists like Lil Baby, who also hosted a back-to-school event this summer. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the tether? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The impressive run for Venus Williams at the U.S. Open tennis tournament came to an end. The 45-year-old Compton native lost in the quarterfinals of the doubles competition. Venus and Leylah Fernandez lost to Taylor Townsend and Katerina Siniakova 6-1 and 6-2. This was the first time Venus competed in the U.S. Open in 2 years. She was also the oldest competitor in the U.S. Open women's bracket since 1981. After the match, the sellout crowd gave Venus a standing ovation. Just in case you're wondering, the 7-time Grand Slam champion gave no indication that she's ready to retire. Alabama A&M is the HBCU team that played in front of the largest crowd Saturday during the first full weekend of college football. Alabama A&M played at Arkansas, a game that drew 70,827 fans. The turnout ensures at least a six-figure payout for Alabama A&M from the gate receipts. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
At the tone, please record your message.
You ready?
Drop it!
Mr. Tavis Smiley, preach it. Thank you, man. Politics in this country is crazy. You put things in perspective that even I didn't. The right is playing fast and loose with facts and scapegoating everyone under the sun, especially black and brown people. As a white man, I do not agree with this, and I am on my black and brown brothers and sisters' side. Fight the good fight. Know that I am part of the resistance. Let's fight the power.
Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You're listening to the DL Hughley Show. The DL Hughley Show. We're back with more fun and great music. So hit us up at Facebook and Twitter. Hashtag the DL Hughley Show. And download the DL Hughley Show app at Google Play and the App Store. It's the DL Hughley Show. And we're back.
My name is DL.
What did you set this on, hell? You gotta make her say my name one time here.
My name is DL. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for DL Hughley.
It is the DL Hughley Show, your 2025 edition. So, there was much hand-wringing about Donald Trump and his condition when he comes out and does a press conference where he's moving the Space Center to Alabama. Now, if it's Huntsville, that's okay because they're very educated. If it's Birmingham, the space shuttle is going to be paper mache because they have a space camp there. It makes sense. It makes sense to do it.
No, of course.
And they have more PhDs in